Lynn Ramsey's Joker has won so many prestigious awards, and it's the highest-grossing R-rated film of all time. It's safe to say that this little indie drama has resonated with the masses. Before Joker, Ramsey was known for her edgy comedies. You know, wacky movies with John C. Reilly, that kind of thing. But Joker is proof of what she can do when she finally tackles something serious. And her influences are clear. No one can top a gritty crime thriller like Martin Scorsese's Taxi Driver. The ending is basically an homage by having the main character rescue a girl from prostitution. But it never feels like Lynn Ramsey is aping Scorsese, just lifting the elements that work and keeping her own poetic style.
On paper it sounds like, quite generic, but what's really amazing about it was the character was a real, a guy having a bit of a midlife crisis, to be honest, and a bit going to seed,
If she tried to make it look exactly like Taxi Driver with a trashy, antiquated cityscape full of literal garbage, that could draw too many comparisons and we'd never hear the end of it. Instead, she keeps it her own. I mean, if it wasn't for the title, you wouldn't even know it was a comic book adaptation. Given all of the Joker's depictions throughout the years, I think audiences are really open to variations on this iconic character. In this version, Joaquin Phoenix plays a hitman named Joe, which is clearly a realistic alias for Joker.
What's your name?
Joe.
At first, I thought Joe was also an alias because he's so protective of his identity. He drops his middleman when his son accidentally sees where he lives.
Did he tell you where he saw me?
No. No, I knew you wouldn't want me to know, man.
And he only contacts his handler by payphone.
It's done.
You could just call me directly, like a normal person.
But his mom calls him Joe too, so maybe not. Still, it's better than if she called him Happy or something obvious. And he does actually make up a name in front of a bad guy.
Hey, Mr. Rogers. Listen, I'm gonna ask you some questions. Please be honest with me.
Either way, Joe is an inconspicuous name. It doesn't really conjure up any associations. No last name either, just Joe. But I think fans were open to ambiguous choices. In the seminal comic The Killing Joke, written by Alan Moore, the Joker says, "If I'm going to have a past, I prefer it to be multiple choice." And one of the best things about The Dark Knight was how the Joker kept shifting his backstory.
Well, you look nervous. Is it the scars? You want to know how I got them?
Everything you need to know about Joe is painted on his body, his beard, his weight, his scars. The present has a much stronger evocation of the past. If you showed exactly how he transformed into who he is, it would never really fit the final outcome. There'd always be a disconnect between the start and the finish. So what could be more effective than your own imagination? Though we do get glimpses of the past. His memories interrupt his daily life. They're only fragments, abuse, war, and death, but they're enough to suggest he's severely traumatized. Then Ramsey pushes these images into fantasy, not just cuts, but surreal moments.
What the fuck are we doing?
We know these things aren't real, but we're in Joe's headspace, so they feel personal. They're subtle, though. We don't need an elongated fantasy sequence to make it clear that this man is mentally ill, just a couple of striking images. The rest you can pick up from his behavior. Joe is constantly on the cusp of killing himself. And there's really only one thing keeping him alive.
Joe?
Come in.
His mother keeps his head above the water, so to speak. And even though there's love there, being a caretaker is a pain in the ass.
What are you doing? What are you fucking around with? There's water everywhere.
Fucking around, so
You are. There's nothing. You keep rearranging. Get out.
I need my space.
He has to make sure that she's bathing properly. He has to make sure that she's eating properly.
Mom,
What?
this fridge is disgusting.
What's wrong?
Some people have theorized that everything after the fridge scene is one of the Joker's elaborate fantasies, but I don't know. Maybe we're watching two different movies or something, because I didn't get that impression. To me, it shows how frustrating it can be to take care of someone. Add that to his trauma, and he's bursting at the seams with rage. and his only outlet is to hurt really bad people. There was so much buzz in the media over whether or not Joker would romanticize violence, but the film goes out of its way to withhold violence. Joe specializes in rescuing missing girls, and he's hired by a prominent senator who claims his daughter Nina keeps running away.
What's the lead?
You got an anonymous text with an address.
I've heard of these places. Underage girls. I want you to hurt them.
So after a lot of preparation, Joe raids a traffic house, but the fight is shot entirely from oscillating security footage. Every time something interesting starts to happen, it cuts to another angle. And I think it represents just how numb Joe is. Violence is the only thing that's louder than his pain, but this line of work will never make him feel better. Realistically, though, what else could he do to heal? See a social worker, keep a journal, take medication? Maybe.
Don't make me wait!
Joe isn't obligated to be in this profession. He doesn't need the money. He's not bullied into violence or mugged into violence. Actually, when he is mugged, he can handle himself. No, he chooses this work because it satisfies a mental itch, even if it doesn't bring him absolution. And that's equally true of audiences who look to entertainment to solve their own problems. So despite how intense the scene is, it has to be this objective, mechanical process. Once the mission becomes personal, the violence stops being impartial. The plan was for Nina's father to pick her up anonymously at a hotel, but the senator jumps to his death, and 2 policemen arrive to steal her back. Later, he discovers that his associates and his mother have been killed by assassins looking for him. And now you're expecting vengeance, absolute brutality. These guys are killers, right? Don't they deserve it?
Where are you going?
But again, Ramsey doesn't give you that satisfaction. She gives you empathy. Now that his mother is gone, his anger is gone, so Joe buries her with every intention of drowning himself. Joe pieces together that the senator traded his daughter to a governor for political favors, and probably got cold feet about it. Joker isn't shy about showing just how ugly elite societies can be, rather what they're allowed to be. If you throw enough money at something, you can get away with anything. The rich and powerful can off politicians, use policemen to do their bidding, and slaughter whoever they have to hide what they do. Poor people can abuse children, but they don't have the tools to cover it up. Not to mention the ability to create an organization like this. So finally, we have a reason to see a violent payoff. No bells and whistles, just a personal vendetta and a rich man who really deserves it. If Joe went to confront Thomas Wayne, for example, and they were potentially related, and outside the mansion he passed a young Bruce Wayne before he was Batman, that would be pretty corny. Instead, he hunts down the governor based only on his crimes, and that's all we need to know to crave a hammer through his skull. When Joe invades the mansion, the shots and the music are priming our muscle memory. They're exactly the same as the traffic house sequence. So this time, especially at the climax, we've earned something different. But again, Ramsey takes it away. Joe doesn't get any satisfaction, and neither do we. Joaquin Phoenix would have made a great Joker no matter what, but was the story going to keep up with his performance? Clearly it does. The film holds a mirror to our expectations. The justice, per se, is done. The governor is already dead. But what does it say about us that we're disappointed because we didn't get to see it?
Justice is about harmony. Revenge is about you making yourself feel better.
And what does it say about Joe that he never gets his catharsis? He bottles so much inside, and it's supposed to come out with rage, but it never does. So now it has nowhere to go, and it's suffocating. That's what separates Joker from a generic killing spree set to the tune of social commentary. It's an actual heartfelt examination of someone who's damaged, whose only solution is to inflict violence on others or on himself. Those of us who suffer from depression or trauma can feel isolated, and that might feel like pressure to be happy, or else you run the risk of not belonging. And it's not exactly polite to say, but I don't think someone as broken as Joe can ever be normal again. So, what do you get when you cross a mentally ill loner with a society that abandons him and treats him like trash? Nothing. As he imagines it, nobody notices, nobody cares, and they go about their business, laughing.
Have a nice day.
I think it makes happiness seem that much phonier. Still, he finds a reason to live.
Hey, Joe, wake up.
Nina has survived much worse than he has, and yet she's still here. Instead of lashing out at the world, they give each other hope. I think it's kind of beautiful that a film this bleak and full of pain can still be optimistic.
It's a beautiful day.
If a more obvious version of Joker existed, a crowd pleaser if you will, that would be fine, and it could even be a well-made movie. But it wouldn't quite leave a mark like this version does. Lynn Ramsey's Joker didn't give the masses what they wanted, but maybe it gave them what they needed. It's a shame that a film like this is only so popular because it's attached to a popular intellectual property. If it had an obscure name, it probably would have been buried by the competition. But luckily, that didn't happen.